It was 3:12 in the morning when my backyard camera lit up my phone, and I saw the president of my HOA in black clothes and gloves in my yard, ripping boards off my fence with a cordless saw, like she had a legal right to be there. And when the sheriff pulled up and hit her with the spotlight, she actually told him with a straight face, "You don't have jurisdiction here. This is HOA-controlled property." Like my backyard was her office. And in that moment, I realized I was not just dealing with a nosy neighbor who liked to measure grass. I was dealing with somebody who thought she owned people, not houses, and yeah, that happened. Let me tell you how we got there, because I didn't move out here looking for a fight. I'm Daniel Carter. I live in Cedar Ridge Estates, just outside Fairview, North Carolina. Regular little HOA neighborhood. Matching mailboxes, matching roofs, fake pond with a sign that says, "No fishing," like anybody wants to fish in that thing. And I bought my place because all I wanted was quiet. A small yard for my dog. A driveway that's mine. Something stable. After years of renting and praying, the rent didn't jump $400 overnight. You know what I mean? I honestly thought HOAs were just emails about weeds and pool wristbands. Not court evidence, so when I heard that pounding on my door at 6 in the morning, I thought, maybe it was an emergency. And instead, I opened the door half awake in gym shorts, and there's Patricia Whitmore. Everybody calls her Patty. Mid-50s blazer at sunrise, hair sprayed into position, and she's not even pretending to be neighborly. She just shoves a bright orange paper at my chest and goes, "You are being fined $500 for unapproved construction. You have 48 hours to remove the fence you installed." And I'm blinking like, "Ma'am? What fence? I didn't build a fence. The fence was already here when I closed on the house. I just replaced a couple rotten boards after a storm, so my dog wouldn't escape." And I tell her that calm, respectful thinking. This is just a mix-up. And she smiles at me in this slow, cold way and says, "You don't get to define what counts as construction, Daniel. I do." Then turns away and starts writing on her clipboard, like I'm already guilty. And I remember standing there in my doorway like, wait, what just happened to me? That same afternoon, there's another notice taped to my garage in red. Unauthorized landscaping daily. Fine, $250 vegetation height, exceeds 4-inch limit, along community drainage easement. And I'm like, what drainage easement? What 4-inch limit? And also, why is my grass being measured like it's a controlled substance? I actually grabbed a tape measure out of pure spite and checked the patch behind my fence 2.5 inches. And by the way, that drainage easement she was talking about was just the low spot in my own backyard where puddles form when it rains. So now I'm irritated, but I'm still trying to be diplomatic. I'm still that guy who's like, okay, let's handle this. Like adults, then I get an email from her subject line. In all caps, notice of escalation, and she CCs 3 board members. I don't even know, and tells me that if I don't correct violations, she's initiating a lien against my property and might suspend services such as trash pickup and pool access. And I'm standing in my kitchen holding my phone, thinking first of all, my trash pickup is through the city. Not you. Second, I've never even been to the pool. Third, did you just threaten to take my house over a fence board? I paid for myself. And that's when something in me went cold, because I realized this wasn't confusion. This was pressure. This was her trying to train me to say yes. And I'm not gonna lie, that part hits different when you're someone like me. First-time homeowner. Not rich. Not connected. Just proud. You finally got something in your own name because out of nowhere, this woman is basically saying, I can bankrupt you for fixing your fence. I can make your life miserable. I can make you wish you never signed that mortgage. And it felt like somebody putting a hand on the back of my neck, pushing my head down. 2 days later, it got loud. I pull into my driveway after grabbing groceries, and I hear power tools in my backyard. I walk around the side, and there are 2 guys inside my yard, with drills and a pry bar, and they've already taken 2 panels off my fence and leaned them on the grass. And I'm like, "What are you doing in my yard?" And one guy just shrugs and goes, "HOA told us to open the easement. Said you're blocking community access. We're supposed to start removing this section." And my stomach just drops. And then I hear heels on concrete, and I look up and Patty is standing there in my driveway like she lives there, arms folded, sunglasses on, voice loud enough for the workers to hear. "Daniel, this line belongs to the association you were warned we're restoring community access." And I tell her steady, "This is my fence on my property." And she tilts her head like I'm a little kid. Arguing about bedtime and goes, "You don't actually own up to the fence. That strip is HOA controlled. It's called a shared use buffer. I'd hate to escalate this further." And she smiles. And I'm telling you right now, that smile was not neighbor energy. That was predator energy. That was, "I already decided I'm in charge of you," and something in me just snapped into focus like, "Okay, we're done pretending." I went inside, grabbed the boring white binder from closing, the survey map. The deed, the measurements nobody reads unless they're in trouble, brought it right back out, opened it to the page with the little black line that shows the property boundary pointed at it, and said, "Patricia, this fence sits on my lot line. There is no easement if you touch it again. It's trespassing and property damage. I will call the sheriff." And for half a second I watched her face crack, like she wasn't expecting pushback with paperwork. Then she leaned in close, so only I could hear, and whispered, "You really want to go to war with me, Daniel? I've gotten people removed from this neighborhood." And then she leaned back and smiled again like nothing happened. And I'm standing there thinking, "Oh, you're actually serious. You think you can erase me?" That night, I put up 2 more security cameras. Nothing fancy. Just the cheap Wi-Fi ones, with night vision and motion alerts. I started saving every email, every notice she taped to my door, every voicemail where she said, "Failure to comply will result in lien activity." I called county code enforcement and asked straight up, "Does the HOA have any right at all to come in my yard and start removing parts of my fence without my signature?" And the officer, Rivera, didn't even pause. She said, "Absolutely not. That's trespassing record, everything. And if they come back, call us and call the sheriff. So now I'm not scared. I'm building a case, you feel me? I'm done reacting. I'm collecting." And the crazy part is the second I stopped acting like a scared new homeowner and started acting like a person who keeps receipts, my neighbors started showing up like they'd just been waiting for someone to not fold. Mike across the street, retired firefighter, tells me, "Yeah, you're the new target last month. It was the Lees." She tried to find them because their grandson's wheelchair ramp wasn't aesthetically consistent. Month before that, it was the Martinez family because their daughter used purple balloons, and Patty said that color doesn't match the community palette. Then, Henderson from 2 doors down knocks and hands me printed HOA meeting minutes. She's been saving in a manila folder like evidence and whispers. Half the rules she quotes aren't actually in the bylaws, a baby. She just says them out loud until people believe her. And then one of the board members, Ryan the treasurer, calls me privately and says, "Look, we never voted on those fines. We never approved any 4-inch vegetation standard. Also, she's been billing the HOA for payments to something called Whitmore Compliance Consulting. That's her cousin. She's using HOA money and calling it enforcement support." And I'm just sitting there like, wow. So the lady who keeps telling me I'm lowering property values might be stealing from all of us. Then comes the night, the one that opened this story. 12 a.m. Motion alert on my phone. I'm thinking raccoon. I roll over. I look, and my heart just slams, because there she is. Patty herself. Hoodie, gloves, bolt cutters. In my yard, cutting my fence, taping this official-looking paper to my back door that says, "Final warning, Cedar Ridge Estates. Homeowners Association will be assuming control of the unauthorized barrier you will be billed for removal, calling my fence an unauthorized barrier like it's some illegal border wall, and I'm standing there in the dark, barefoot, hand and shaking, and I wanted to run outside. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to yell, but I knew if I did, she'd start screaming and try to flip it on me. So instead, I started screen recording the live camera feed, called the sheriff, and said, "My name is Daniel Carter. I'm at Maple Crest Drive in Cedar Ridge Estates. I have the HOA president trespassing with tools removing my fence. I have video she has threatened to lien my house. Dispatch says stay inside. Keep recording. Units on the way." 2 cruisers pull up without sirens. You can see their headlights sweep across my yard. In the footage, she sees them, and instead of dropping the tools like a normal person, she walks straight toward the first deputy, like she's still in charge, and goes, "Officer, stand down. This is an HOA compliance action on association-controlled property. You don't have standing here." And the deputy just looks at her and goes, "Ma'am, you're standing in this man's backyard at 3 in the morning with bolt cutters. Turn around, hands behind your back. Click cuffs, done." You'd think that right there would be the satisfying part. But that wasn't even the best part. The real moment was 2 days later, at the emergency HOA meeting. Packed room, people standing in the back, with their phones out. Every single person who's ever gotten one of her little orange threats, sitting there waiting. Patty walks in with her blazer and her little president nameplate, like she's still running the show. And the treasurer goes, "Mr. Carter would like to present something." And I hook my laptop to the TV and press play, and the whole room watches her on my night vision camera in my yard at 3:12 a.m., ripping my fence apart, taping that fake notice to my door, telling law enforcement they don't have jurisdiction, and the room goes dead quiet. You can feel it. Then, you start to hear people whisper, "Oh my God." And she did the same thing to us. And I lay out my printed survey that proves my fence is on my land. I lay out her email, threatening to lien my house over a rule that doesn't exist. And Ryan, the treasurer, lays out budget screenshots showing HOA money going to Whitmore Compliance Consulting LLC, which just happens to be her cousin's business. And then Code Enforcement Officer Rivera stands up and says into the mic, "For the record, the HOA does not have legal authority to enter a private enclosed yard and remove or alter a fence without the owner's consent. And a permit, what you saw on that video, is not an inspection. It's a crime." And Patty loses it, points at me and yells, "He's lying. He's been undermining HOA orders since he moved in. People like him don't respect standards." And the whole room shifts when she says people like him. Like, oh, there it is. There's the real voice behind the fines. Ms. Lee stands up, shaking, and goes, "You fined me $300 because my grandson's wheelchair ramp didn't match the porch paint you called it." Visual disruption. Was that standards too, Patricia and Mr. Martinez goes, "You wrote us up for purple balloons for our daughter's birthday and said that color doesn't belong in this neighborhood. And in real time, you can see the board realize they haven't actually been running anything. It's just been Patty Solo playing dictator with our dues." So Ryan takes a breath and says, Motion to suspend Patricia Whitmore from the position of HOA president, effective immediately pending audit. Sarah on the board says, second. They vote 4 hands up, none against, and boom, that's it. She starts yelling about conspiracies and how the neighborhood will fall apart without her, and you'll beg me to come back. And they just tell her, Patricia, you are no longer recognized by this board. And she has to walk out past everyone she spent years threatening, and she can't spin it. Not with the video, not with the budget printouts, not with Rivera sitting right there. And listen, I'm not going to pretend everything's perfect now. I still check my cameras before bed. I still save every email. When someone shows up in your yard at 3 a.m. with bolt cutters, that doesn't just disappear from your nervous system, but the fines are gone. The lien threat disappeared overnight, like it never existed. The board sent out an email saying no. Single person can issue violations anymore. Every enforcement has to be voted on and recorded. And for the first time since I moved in, people wave. Again, kids ride their bikes without their parents worrying that a sidewalk chalk drawing is going to be labeled graffiti misses. Henderson planted sunflowers 6 feet tall in her front yard just because she knew Patty would have hated it, and we all walk by like beautiful flowers. Helen, and it hits me, I didn't plan to be the guy who fought the HOA. I really didn't. I just didn't want to get pushed out of my own house. But here's what I learned. And you tell me if I'm wrong. People like Patty only win when everybody stays quiet. Once you start comparing what they say to what's actually written, once you talk to your neighbors and realize it's not just you, once you get it on video instead of arguing feelings, their little kingdom cracks. So I want to know something from you, and be honest, at what point would you have snapped? Would you have paid the fine just to make it go away? Would you have yelled in her face in the driveway? Would you have walked out there at 3 a.m.? Or would you have done what I did and call the sheriff and let the system eat her? Tell me what city you're watching from. Tell me if your HOA is normal or if you got your own Patty. And tell me this too. Do you think this was justice, or do you think I went too far?